If you've ever been told you're too sensitive, you overthink everything, you feel too much, I want you to hear this. You are not broken. In fact, sensitivity is your gift. Nervous system-based care may be the key that you have been searching for. Welcome to Healing Beyond the Symptoms, the podcast that helps people discover the root causes of their health struggles and take back control with science, strategy, and self-awareness. I'm Dr. Leah Hahn, a chiropractor and functional wellness doctor who believes that true healing starts beneath the surface. So let's dive in. So there's definitely a gift and a challenge with sensitivity. Empaths and deep feelers, those with really intense emotions, and those who are deep processors, or those who notice more. They notice emotions, they notice energy, they notice people's expressions, they notice tension, they even notice subtle shifts in relationships. So this is actually a strength. But it means that your nervous system becomes overwhelmed more quickly. It means that you become overstimulated more quickly. A patient once told me that I feel everyone else's stress. I carry it in my own body and I become depleted so quickly. And that's the empath's challenge, or the sensitive's challenge, is that your body is absorbing all of what is happening around you. Again, the energy, the tension, expression, subtle shifts that are happening within the room. And so when people deal with this, they don't just process their own stress, they process the world's stress. And so we want to get back into this in terms of looking at it in the nervous system. And I look at it as like overloaded circuits. Just like a breaker flips when there's too much current running through it, the sensitive nervous system can become so overwhelmed by constant input. And before we get further into this, I want to give you some background on this. I want to tell you the difference between empaths and highly sensitive people. So when we think about empaths are the people who maybe in spiritual or psychological terms, they have this heightened emotional resonance. They don't just feel other people's emotions. They feel them as if they were their own emotions. And so what happens is that they're actually absorbing that emotional energy that's happening from people and from the environment that's surrounding them. And they can feel drained or anxious around really strong emotions or strong conflicts that are happening. If there's a lot of tension in their workplace, they feel like they're taking it all on. And it's very common for them to then struggle with emotional boundaries. Often people who are empathic are drawn to helping others or being in a healing type of a role. And that is so their gift. It can be utilized as a beautiful gift to help others. But the problem with it is that when you're absorbing all of the emotions of the people that they're working with, again, what they're designed to help people with is also often a drain for them. In essence, being an empath is about absorbing all of that emotional energy all of the time. And I promise I'm going to give you some ideas and solutions of things that can help with this. But I want to get into the difference of what would be looked at as a highly sensitive person. And I'm talking about highly sensitive person based on research by Elaine Aron. You can read all about it in her book, The Highly Sensitive Person. Her research is from the 1990s. And what it means is more of, instead of kind of like the psychological or emotional trait that people may have, it's a biological trait. And it's called sensory processing sensitivity, which means that their nervous systems are finely tuned to submit stimulus, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, whether it's environmental. And so you start to see these characteristics among what I'm going to term as HSPs for short, where they deeply process information. They deeply process their emotions. They're easily overstimulated. So it could be noise in their environment, or the type of lighting that's in a room, or just being in a crowded environment. They're often highly empathic as well as neurologically attuned to absorb all of this. It takes time for them to actually recover from sensory or emotional input. So when I look at these individuals, what is so fascinating with this is they're often incredibly creative, they're incredibly conscientious, they're intuitive. But being that HSP is how your nervous system is processing both the sensory and the emotional information that's happening around you. So The difference, I guess, is that it's a physiological trait, not just a personality trait. In her book, when she talks about this and about HSPs, she's going to describe them as biologically based in about 15 to 20% of the population. So if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, that's me, I'm so sensitive to my environment, to my work environment, to what's happening at home and that energy, just realize that your brain is being stimulated over and over again by your environment and your social surroundings. HSPs actually have increased activation in areas of the brain that are related to awareness and empathy. So realize this, that they may have greater activation of what's called mirror neurons, which is a fancy way of saying that due to how their brain is processing information, they may experience other people's emotions more deeply. Research shows that their brain even can take more time to process emotions. They may be so aware of subtle changes in people's expression, whether it's unhappiness or stress or excitement or nervousness or anxiety. They may be so aware of social cues. They have typically very high order visual processing, in which all of those fine details that some people may miss, they're taking it all in. There's even a genetic component to this. Those studies show that there may be genes linked to our serotonin that can be both changes in our genetics and biochemical reasons that HSPs have such a high sensitivity to both positive and negative environmental influences. So, again, if you're looking at this, I want you to start to think about yourself. If this is 15 to 20% of the population that feels these types of kind of sensory overload from what's happening in their environment, realize I again look at this as not only sensitivity, but it's also your superpower. So, I want to go into that a little bit more. When we talk about HSPs, they often have stronger autonomic nervous system responses. That means that when they do get stressed, they may feel it at an overwhelming degree, if that makes sense to you. They can have higher heart rate variability when they're processing emotions. They can have greater reactivity to just subtle environmental changes. But that heightened nervous system response is not just emotional reactivity. It actually looks like this could be a survival strategy. And what I mean by that is if you're able to detect subtle cues, if you're more observant in your environment, if you're maybe more cautious because of all of the stimuli that you're taking in, you're much more easily able to identify threats. So it would make sense genetically that this trait would be passed on from individual to individual. Years ago, I worked with a psychologist and I was describing to her how I often felt after a workday. And I would talk to her about how I would sense so much of what was happening in my environment, the clients I was working with, their tone of voice. Maybe what was even happening behind me in the room. I could sense that. I could read their facial cues, their expressions, the intonations that were happening in their words. And she said, I'm pretty sure you're an HSP. And I started reading her book, or the Elaine Aron book on HSPs. And it made a world of difference to actually understand what was happening within my body. And it's one of the reasons that I am so incredibly um, drawn to helping other people that are highly sensitive, because I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to take in so much of what's happening in your environment and how draining that can be. So it's really important to have strategies, and I want to be able to give you some of those strategies today. I also will tell you that I firmly believe that it runs in families. I've looked at that, how it affects my mom. I've looked at how it affects me. I think it affected my grandfather. So I look at that kind of genetic trait as, again, it's something that does run in families, but it can be such a gift. So for me, it helps me be a better practitioner. It helps me be a better doctor. It helps me be able to help more people, and specifically be able to help highly sensitive people. But at the same time, it consumes a lot of energy. So again, I want to give you some really key points and what can make a difference. But I also I want to tell you how important it is to really focus on healing and reorganizing how the nervous system functions, because it will be a game changer in terms of how you live your life on a daily basis. I want to talk to you a little bit about how network care specifically can help people that are highly sensitive or empathic. And we're going to touch on this in a minute about deep thinkers as well. So, when I started experiencing and learning the work of Network Spinal, I didn't know why it was so healing to me. How so much of the research shows that when you're incredibly sensitive, it can be incredibly dysregulating to the nervous system. You need tools that help ground you into safety and that help balance the nervous system, regulate the nervous system, rebalance it, clear stress, really move into healing state. But I was so attracted to network care because after experiencing it, it was the most peaceful I had ever felt within my body. It calmed my thinking. It put me so much more in touch with my own thoughts, with my own needs, my emotions, what my boundaries actually were. And that sense of peace was my parasympathetic nervous system kicking in instead of just living out of fight or flight 24/7. And that created deep healing throughout my entire body. As much as being an empath or a highly sensitive person affected me, it's one of my superpowers, and Network Spinal actually helped me discover that. So, again, it's something that I want to be able to educate you on of different tools and things that you can do to help yourself. I work with lots of highly sensitive people, and I feel so honored to be able to do that because I recognize their gifts. And I also recognize how, when we can tap into that power in the nervous system and really put it into a healing place, how much better their lives will be, how much better they'll function, and how much more regulated they'll actually feel. Highly sensitive people often live in fight or flight without even realizing it. And we talked a lot about HSPs, we've talked some about empaths, but what if someone's a deep thinker? A deep thinker lives in their head. They're analyzing and replaying what's happening in their day, what's happening throughout their lives. It's a lot of thinking, obviously. But the body is left holding those patterns. Often, what it looks like is really tight shoulders, having shut off breath through the mid back, meaning their body, when I'm working with a deep thinker, may look like everything moves in their pelvis and then it shuts off in their mid back and then it moves in their neck again. Kind of fascinating to see that pattern. They often have a clenched jaw, and that breath that we're talking about, not only does it not move very well in the mid back, but it also looks like their breath is very shallow, very stuck. Being a deep thinker means that your mind naturally processes information at multiple levels, meaning emotionally, analytically, intuitively, and often empathically as well. It's reflective, it's inward focused. There's processing that can overactivate the nervous system if it's not balanced with grounding or rest. So, when you think of this, there's a constant cognitive load that's happening. They rarely turn off. Even at rest, their minds are constantly analyzing, reflecting, and connecting the dots, replaying experiences. And that constant engagement and thinking actually activates the sympathetic nervous system. Deep thinkers often feel emotions with equal intensity to how they think. So, again, if you're feeling really deep emotions along with the thoughts that you're processing, that can be very overactive to the fight or flight side of the nervous system. It can activate the same pathways as someone in chronic stress. So it's an interesting way to think about that, a new way to think about deep thinkers may actually be putting their bodies in a stress state without intending to. The brain doesn't always distinguish between a thought about a threat and an actual threat. So if they're mentally revisiting worries and the what ifs or past situations, the body is actually responding as if those stressors are happening now. That's releasing cortisol into their bloodstream. It's tightening their muscles. It's shifting their breath patterns. It could be affecting their digestive system or even their reproductive system. And the thing is that they're spending so much time in their head that they really start to decrease that mind-body connection. So everything becomes about what they're thinking versus what they physically or sometimes emotionally feel. They can also be highly sensitive, so very cued into what's happening in their environment. Again, that can create this sense of nervous system overwhelm. All of these patterns can create fatigue, anxiety, or chronic tension within the body. So I love working with empaths and sensitives and deep thinkers, mainly because it's something where I think their superpower just needs to be expressed. I think they can have a higher quality of life and they can contribute so much to this world. Many practices would see sensitivity as a weakness or a problem that they're trying to fix. We see it as this is just their brilliance and it's being weighted to be supported. Network Spinal is gentle enough for very specific sensitive systems, yet it's powerful enough to create long lasting changes within the body and the mind. The approach of Network Spinal actually creates such a sense of safety within the nervous system, which is exactly what sensitives need in order to be able to release those chronic tension patterns and, more importantly, to be able to recalibrate their nervous system. It gives so much energy back when you actually are able to ground the nervous system and give it new strategies for healing and existing in the world. Rather than just manual cracking or thrusts that are used in traditional chiropractic, network spinal practitioners use very specific, very light contacts, very precise contacts on the spine, typically in the top of the spine and the bottom of the spine. But these contacts actually cue the body to self regulate, to go into its self regulating mechanisms. And this prompts breath and it can prompt movement and energy flow that gradually release tension and repattern the spine. We don't ever try to toughen you up in terms of a highly sensitive or an empathic person. We help your nervous system become more resilient so you can feel deeply without being consumed, without being drained and losing all of your energy. Deep thinking and being highly sensitive, being an empath, these are all the gifts. And the key is learning how to regulate, how to create an adaptable nervous system that is reorganized in a way that allows you to function at your best self, at your highest level. So, I want to go over some practical steps for how you can help the nervous system, especially when you're a sensitive person, when you're an empathic person, or a deep thinker. And the first thing I want you to do is start to reframe your thoughts about this. It's okay to say, I feel deeply, and that's a strength. That's a message that you can tell yourself. And I really want you to start thinking about having a layered approach to caring for your nervous system. And what I mean by that is, how do you start your day? Do you take breaks? How do you end your day? And so for me, I have different nervous system regulating activities that are layered throughout my day. So the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is typically make a cup of coffee, but I sit down with my journal and I spend about 20 minutes with just free form journaling. Whatever comes out on the page comes out on the page. I find that it reframes what I'm thinking about. I can shift into more positive thinking. I'm able to let go of tension and worries. And it's such an amazing way to start your day. I like to follow that up by about 5 to 10, maybe even 15 minutes of guided meditation. I use that time to deep breathe, to focus, and to set the tone of my day. I then start my day, and it starts, all of the demands of the day start coming at me, just like all of us. The emails, the phone calls, really starting to work on projects. So by about 1 to 2 p.m., I'm ready for a break. And so I either will take a walk if it's a beautiful day, or I might take a 20-minute rest and really, again, refocus with breath, maybe some meditation. I might take a quick nap, but that energizes my day and helps my brain feel so much clearer, especially when you're a highly sensitive person and you're taking on so much throughout the day. Your nervous system can, again, become overloaded. What is your strategy for dealing with that? And then how I end my day is critical. So, putting aside my computer, taking time to be away from technology, deciding to read a book, maybe take another walk. But I spend some time specifically giving my nervous system the chance to regulate itself before I try to fall asleep. So, all of those strategies are layered throughout the day and can make a big difference in terms of regulating your nervous system. It's really key for highly sensitive or empathic people or deep thinkers to create boundaries for their energy. Notice when you're carrying emotions that are not yours and use kind curiosity. What I mean by that is that instead of saying something critical to yourself, you could instead ask, and again, I want you to think of your tone, is this mine? Do I really need to carry this? You can release other people's emotions either in your thought process, energetically, but you can do it with movement. You can do it with journaling. You can do it with stillness. When I'm done working with clients, not only do I love to take a walk, but I also love to take a hot shower and visualize everyone else's energy flowing off of me. And that can really help me reset as I prepare to rest. And then seek care that honors your nervous system. Network spinal care can help sensitive people feel safe to let go, to regulate, to be able to move forward, to reconnect, to heal. With traditional chiropractic, the practitioner does the correcting. What I love for highly sensitive people is that network is allowing you to be guided to make your own changes. That's incredibly effective for sensitive people. It helps to create new strategies for alignment, for energy efficiency, and resiliency. Patients begin to often develop even waves of healing. Some are breath waves, some are movement waves that help to unwind spinal tension. So many people, as they go through this process, report emotional release, shifts in consciousness, a sense of expanded awareness during the session or even after the sessions. It happens because that unresolved stress and trauma that's stored in the nervous system, all that overwhelm from taking in so much of their environments, can actually be processed by the nervous system. It's brought to the surface and it's integrated in such a gentle and thorough process of helping the nervous system. It's incredibly therapeutic. I want to go through some tactical takeaways from today's episode. Sensitivity is not a flaw, it's your superpower. It needs to be regulated so that your body can move into a state of thriving. Empaths, sensitive, deep thinkers often feel too much because their bodies don't know how to downshift. And there are tools that can help HSPs and empaths and deep thinkers live their best, most grounded, most expansive life. And gentle nervous system care can help you feel deeply, but also stay grounded at the same time. Thanks for joining me today on Healing Beyond the Symptoms. If you've ever felt like sensitivity was a burden, I want you to know it's a gift. You just need the right tools to be able to support it. To learn more, download my free resource at bodyandbalancechiropractic.com or book a consultation at bodyandbalancechiropractic.com to explore how network spinal care can support sensitive nervous systems. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Body and Balance Wellness Center for daily insights. Until next time, breathe deep, honor your sensitivity, and trust your body's wisdom. Thanks again for joining me today on Healing Beyond the Symptoms. If you've been curious about Network Spinal, or if you've tried everything else and still feel stuck, I want you to know this. Your body is not broken. It's patterned, and those patterns can change. If you're ready to experience how gentle care can lead to profound transformation, I'd love to invite you to book a wellness consultation at bodyandbalancechiropractic.com. Together, we'll look at what your body needs to finally release, reset, and thrive. Until next time, breathe deep, trust your body, and remember, gentle can be powerful.